Hi, how you doing? We're back and we're ready for it all over again.
Hello and welcome back to Every Country Explained. This is part 2 of my North Korea Iceberg Explained series, based on an iceberg created by Saekim not Saekom. In part 1 we covered the first 2 tiers, so please check that out if you haven't already, the link will be in the top of this video. Now, let's get into tier 3 and move our way further down the DPRK iceberg. Enjoy! Kim Yo Jong. Kim Yo Jong is the daughter of Kim Jong Il and Kim Jong Un's sister. She holds a lot of power in North Korea and in recent years has become one of the major international faces of the country. She had a very similar childhood to her siblings Kim Jong Un and Kim Jong Nam, more on him later, spending the years between 1996 and 2000 studying at the Lieberfeld Steinhalsey School in Switzerland under the assumed name Pak Mi-hyang. She later returned to Pyongyang and completed her degree in computer science at Kim Il-sung University. She spent the last 15 years climbing the ranks within North Korea's ruling Workers' Party and spent time as a member of the Politburo. She's currently the Deputy Director of the Publicity and Information Department and is a member of the State Affairs Commission of North Korea. Her first official mention in state media was in 2014, when she accompanied Kim Jong Un in voting for the Supreme People's Assembly. Since then, she's been one of the more globally public faces of North Korea. She attended the Winter Olympics opening ceremony in 2018 in South Korea, which was the first time a member of the Kim dynasty had visited the South since the Korean War. She's garnered significant attention on social media in recent years, with people believing she is a likely successor to Kim Jong Un as the next supreme leader of the DPRK. There's also a lot of people standing her.
Gatekeep, gaslight, girl boss.
Shane Smith. Shane Smith is a Canadian journalist and the executive chairman of Vice Media, which entails a range of different ventures, including digital news media and a record label, and has become incredibly popular over the years. As part of his journalism, Shane Smith has visited a number of countries considered very dangerous to tourists, such as Iran, Sudan, and Afghanistan. The relevance to this iceberg, though, are his multiple visits to North Korea, which he presented in a 2-part Vice News series that racked up millions of views on YouTube. I'll link these videos in the description as they detail the many aspects of the country that Shane visited. He also completed an Ask Me Anything on Reddit that you can find on the site quite easily, and multiple media interviews on quite prevalent talk shows. As part of his visits, Shane was the person who took Dennis Rodman to North Korea as seen in tier 1 of this video series, and therefore he had a hand in starting the beautiful friendship between Dennis Rodman and Kim Jong Un. Kim Il-sung's calcinosis. So this entry refers to the fact that Kim Il-sung supposedly had calcinosis, which is a buildup of calcium deposits within the body's soft tissues. It's very rare and it's not entirely certain either way whether Kim had it. The evidence is in some photos of him with a large growth on the back of his neck. Funnily enough, the Wikipedia page for calcinosis has Kim Il-sung as its main photo. Photographers were banned from taking photos that showed this growth, so photos are exceedingly rare, and it's hard to tell exactly what it is. Kim Jong Un assassination attempts. This entry kind of speaks for itself and refers to the assassination attempts that have been made on Kim Jong Un's life. The first reportedly was in 2012, when a machine gun was found beneath a juniper tree in Ryugyong-won, along a route Kim was going to travel. This garnered suspicion that it was part of a plot to kill the leader as he passed. Another attempt was reported by the DPRK in 2017, when the government claimed that the CIA and Korean National Intelligence Service had hired a North Korean worker in Russia to kill Kim with a biochemical weapon that's effects were delayed by a number of months. The North Korean government claimed it would seek the extradition of anyone involved in this plot. Being the leader of a country always comes with some risks, so assassination attempts happen frequently around the world, as we've seen in America. But the isolated nature of North Korea means external attempts from other countries are rare and exceedingly hard to pull off. Condoms are illegal. I'd like to start this entry off by stating that no, condoms are not illegal in North Korea, but they're also not entirely allowed. It's a tricky situation that can't really be summed up with clickbait headlines. It's not illegal to own or use condoms in North Korea. The tricky part is actually getting them in the first place. They're not on general sale, and it's only recently that pharmacies and foreign embassies in Pyongyang have begun stocking them for general use. North Korean culture is quite conservative when it comes to sex, and discussing matters such as contraceptives is highly taboo, so most citizens do not want to be publicly seen with these items or even talking about them at all. In the past, Kim Jong Un has also pushed for a higher birth rate within the country, which further shunned the use of condoms and contraceptives in general. North Korea has begun to take steps in improving access to contraception in recent years, with initiatives such as the Maternal and Child Health Programme, which helped enable access to basic healthcare and contraception to women and children across the country, and they've also taken steps to improve education in regards to sexual and reproductive health. There's still a high lack of contraceptive use in North Korea, which has its issues when it comes to STDs and unwanted pregnancies, but condoms are not illegal. They just need wider accessibility and less of a taboo nature within North Korean society. Americans in North Korea, former prisoners of war. This entry refers specifically to Americans who remained in North Korea after being prisoners of war. For general Americans in North Korea by choice, that will come later in the Iceberg series. This entry is quite hard to gain a lot of detail on, but I will explain everything that is known. After the Korean War, there were a number of prisoners of war on either side. In August 1953, there was Operation Big Switch, which aimed to return the final prisoners of war to either side of the peninsula and back to their home country. Surprisingly, 21 American soldiers, 1 British soldier, and 327 South Korean soldiers decided to stay in North Korea permanently. The fate of these American soldiers is relatively unknown even today, but it can be assumed that they would live similar lives to the later prisoners of war that are defected in the 60s, amongst whom are James Dresnok and Charles Jenkins, arguably the 2 most famous Americans in North Korea ever. I fully plan to make detailed videos on both these men, so I won't go into a world of detail here, though I do want to go over the basics with you. In the 60s, a number of Americans defected to North Korea for a multitude of reasons, be it despair at their life in America, or fear over being drafted into the ongoing Vietnam War. Charles Robert Jenkins was the latter. Fearing deployment in Vietnam, the 24-year-old Charles decided to abandon his current post in South Korea and run across the border into North Korea. It was 1965, and his original plan was to seek asylum in the Soviet Union, before being sent back to America to face punishment for desertion and dishonorable discharge. This did not happen, however, as Charles remained in North Korea for 39.5 years. He spent the early years of this time living with other Americans within North Korea, such as James Dresnok, before being made into a DPRK citizen and forced to marry a Japanese woman named Hitomi Soga, with whom he had 2 daughters. During his many years in North Korea, Charles acted in propaganda films, always as the American villain, which made him somewhat of a celebrity. Despite this status, he claims he was always watched and always controlled within the country. As relations between Japan and North Korea warmed slightly in the early 2000s, Charles and his wife were allowed to visit Japan, where they gained amnesty and remained for the rest of Charles's life after he served 25 days in the brig for his 60s desertion. Charles offered to end the marriage with his wife due to their relationship being forced onto them, but she declined and they remained together until his death in 2017, living in Sato, where Charles was a minor celebrity due to his life story. James Dresnok had a life of tragedy, with a father that abandoned him at a young age and a childhood spent in the care of various relatives who didn't want him. During a military service in Germany, he complained of being treated extremely poorly. He returned to the US and discovered his wife had been cheating on him. Distraught, he re-enlisted in the US military and was sent to South Korea, where he was posted on the DMZ. Dresnok had no hope for the future and so spent his time drinking, and soon found himself facing a court-martial for forging his commanding officer's signature. 3 hours before this court appearance, Dresnok ran across the DMZ in broad daylight, where he was quickly apprehended by North Korean soldiers. He was sent to live with 3 other American defectors, including Charles Jenkins. Unlike the others, Dresnok did not want to leave and had decided to settle in North Korea. He acted in many North Korean films as villainous Americans, with one role making him so famous in the country that he was referred to as Arthur by everyone he knew, which was the name of his character. Dresnok had 2 marriages in the DPRK, which gave him 3 sons. He spent his later years teaching English at Pyongyang University and fishing, and always said he was loyal to the country and the Kims for looking after him, stating that no amount of money could ever stop him spending the rest of his life in North Korea. He passed away in 2016. His sons remain in the country to this day with their own family and consider themselves Korean, speaking the language fluently. James Dresnok Jr. is a Taiwi, or captain in the North Korean military. I'll definitely make a video about these guys in the future, as it is a fascinating story, but for now, you can see that the history of Americans in North Korea is a pretty wild one. Chong Song. Chong Song is a famous North Korean defector. Oh was an industrial engineer in the DPRK and, according to Japanese officials, the son of a major general. On the 13th of November 2017, Oh drove his car up to the military demarcation line between North and South Korea and crashed, losing a wheel. He then sprinted across the line under gunfire. Oh was struck 5 times by bullets and collapsed under the cover of a low wall, where South Korean soldiers crawled over and eventually rescued him. He was rushed to a South Korean hospital for urgent surgery, where it was discovered that Oh had lost half the blood in his body due to the bullet wounds. Oh survived and recovered from his injuries, but showed clear signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, and could not recall any details of his escape under interrogation. A South Korean newspaper claimed that Oh admitted to committing a crime in North Korea, hence his defection, but this has never been verified or cited elsewhere, and the South Korean government believes Oh's defection was an impulsive decision. In the aftermath of this defection, the North Korean border guards in the area were replaced due to breaking the Korean armistice agreement by shooting into the DMZ. A trench was also dug where Oh had crashed his car to prevent this happening again. Oh remains in South Korea to this day as a citizen, though he leads a seemingly private life, which is understandable. He joins the approximately 33,000 North Koreans living in South Korea today. North Korea's TikTok. I believe this entry is referring to a TikTok account that popped up in 2023 called Life in North Korea. This account racked up millions of views and tens of thousands of followers in a very short time. It seems to be filled with videos created by people living within the DPRK itself and shows aspects of daily life, such as commutes to work and walks around Pyongyang. There are many that believe that this is state-sanctioned propaganda, though there has been no evidence either way to confirm whether this channel is state-run by North Korea or by someone else. This TikTok launched during the rise of a number of YouTube channels, seemingly run by the DPRK as well, which also broadcast daily life in a very positive way. Opinions do vary wildly on this account, and any social media platform supposedly run by the DPRK, with those claiming it is all false propaganda, and those that claim we finally get to see the real North Korea, and not what the Western media claims to show. North Korea made another splash on TikTok recently, with the popularity of the new song Friendly Father, which admittedly is an absolute banger. Korea Central Zoo. The Korea Central Zoo, or Pyongyang Central Zoo, is a zoo located in the capital of North Korea. Its premier attraction are a family of elephants said to be descended from one hero elephant gifted to Kim Il-sung by Ho Chi Minh. Other attractions include trained monkeys and dogs, and over 400 species of animals from around the world. There are people that claim this zoo has horrible conditions and has even used its exhibits to fight each other, though this was contested by the fact that a group of animal conservationists from Zimbabwe visited the zoo along with a number of animals that were sent to be transferred to North Korea. They said the conditions for the animals were more than acceptable and left them happy with the transfer of animals overall. Tourist groups don't often visit this zoo as part of their schedule, but it is certainly open to foreigners, and is said to be a great place to mingle with everyday DPRK citizens. The Day of the Shining Star is a public holiday in North Korea, celebrating the birthday of its second leader, Kim Jong-il. It takes place on the 16th of February every year, and is one of the 2 most important dates in North Korea, alongside the Day of the Sun. Kim Jong-il's birthday became an official holiday in 1982, but it wasn't renamed as the Day of the Shining Star until the year after his death, 2012, or Juche 101. This is probably a good time to talk about the Juche calendar, which is the official calendar in use in North Korea. This calendar system was adopted in 1997, 3 years after the death of Kim Il-sung, and marks his birth year of 1912 as Juche 1. Any years after this date are given as Juche years in the DPRK, with any years before that using their standard Christian year. Juche calendars are popular amongst tourists that visit the DPRK, and just in case you were wondering, the current year is Juche 113. But what is Juche, I hear you ask? Well, Juche is a topic for a whole other video just as long as this one, and I cannot explain it all here. In short, it's the DPRK's state ideology. Anyway, back to the Day of the Shining Star. This festival is marked by mass gymnastics and dances, firework displays, military demonstrations, and increased access to food rations and services. The festival as a whole lasts for 2 days, and also features millions of people visiting the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, where Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il lay in rest. Government buildings, banks, retail services, and business offices close for the Day of the Shining Star, and it's a common day for weddings to be held. Kim Jong-il actually gets 3 whole public holidays celebrating him, with the other 2 being the Day of Jong Un on August 25th and the Generalissimo Day on the 14th of February. And that is it for Tier 3 of the North Korea Iceberg. Thank you so much for watching this far, and if you haven't already, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in this, more videos about North Korea, and more videos about the rest of the world as a whole. I've got lots of interesting content planned, and I can't wait to make it all for you. So, without further ado, let's move on to Tier 4. We're getting further and further down the iceberg now. We'll be halfway there after this one, so strap in and enjoy. Steam in North Korea. This entry refers to the fact that on certain maps of Steam activity around the world, you can spot one active user within the DPRK. This has fueled wild speculation over the last few years as to who the secret North Korean gamer really is. There have been rumours that Kim Jong Un has a personal account and enjoys playing World of Tanks, though this almost certainly is not true. The account would not belong to a regular citizen, as they use a closed intranet which does not include Steam. A high-up official may use it in their downtime, but the reality is probably much more mundane. North Korea has a number of non-Korean residents on aid work, university teaching, and diplomatic missions at any given time. These people are able to access wireless internet, and so if they brought a computer or a gaming device, they could potentially access Steam and play on South Korean servers. Unfortunately, it is highly unlikely Kim will be getting any aces in Counter-Strike anytime soon. Squid Game Smuggler. The Squid Game Smuggler refers to an unknown man who smuggled copies of the South Korean Netflix show Squid Game into North Korea through China on USB drives. This man has been sentenced to death by firing squad, and students caught watching the show are facing prison sentences too. The DPRK has had a long ban on South Korean music and TV, viewing it as evil capitalist influence that the government does not want taking hold in the country. Squid Game itself follows 456 poor South Koreans desperately competing in barbaric games to win a fortune of money, which apparently, according to some sources, rings home with a number of North Korean officials who feel they're at risk every day, especially as they get richer. There has long been a history of Western and worldwide media being smuggled into North Korea, but it does seem the government is taking a stricter crackdown these days, especially if this Squid Game smuggler is anything to go by. Kim Hae-suk. Kim Hae-suk is a North Korean defector who spent almost 3 decades inside a labor camp for crimes committed by her grandfather. Trapped in the Bukchang labor camp, she alleges torture, starvation, and grueling manual labor all day, every day, on only 1 meal a day. Spending 28 years inside the camp, she saw people publicly executed for questioning orders, and even claims that cannibalism became evident as people fought to survive. She escaped in her 40s to China, but was caught and returned to the camp. Her second and successful escape is shrouded in secrecy due to the fact she still has living family trapped in the labor camps. She now lives in South Korea. That many years in a labor camp might sound like the result of a horrific crime, but she didn't actually do anything. Her grandfather defected in the early 70s, and so his descendants are the ones punished for that crime. It might sound a bit like I'm skipping over a lot of detail here, but doing justice to the ordeal that Kim Hae-suk faced is incredibly difficult in one of these sorts of videos, and I want to link her full interview in the description so you can read it for yourself. It's an eye-opening and traumatic read. It's also been backed up by another defector, Kim Joo-il, a former army officer who lives in Britain after escaping in 2005. He claims that inmates, especially political ones, are treated mercilessly and not looked upon as humans. The DPRK itself refuses to acknowledge the existence of these camps, but satellite data seems to show at least 6 camps across the country, where they're housing an approximate 200,000 people. Day of the Sun. The Day of the Sun goes hand in hand with the earlier mentioned Day of the Shining Star, as this is the single most important public holiday in North Korea, akin to their Christmas. It's celebrated on the 15th of April every year, which is the birthday of Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea. The of the sun part of the name comes from Kim's name, with Il-sung literally meaning become the sun in Korean. The festivities usually last for a number of days and involve people visiting monuments representative of Kim, including his birthplace of Mangyongdae and the Mansu Grantil Monument, where you can find towering statues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. Citizens receive extra food and electricity during this period, and children are given candy and gifts. There are 2 days of rest after the 15th of April celebrations, making it a 3-day public holiday. There are also a number of events held between the 16th of February and the 15th of April, connecting the two ex-leaders' birthdays, and this whole period is known as the Loyalty Festival. The Day of the Sun was made official in 1968 and promoted to the most important holiday in 1972, though it didn't actually receive its name until 1997, which is also when the Juche calendar was adopted. Every 5th and 10th anniversary of Kim Il-sung's birth is marked with even more pronounced celebrations. In 2012, the centenary of Il-sung's birth, the new leader Kim Jong Un gave his first ever public speech. And that about does it for today's video. So, thank you so much for watching all the way to this point, and thank you for all the love on part 1. I'm absolutely blown away by the views I've had and the subscribers I've had. I really hope you enjoyed part 2. I know we didn't get all the way through tier 4, but next time we're going to get through tier 4, 5, and 6. And I promise you there's some really juicy info in there. I'm especially excited to talk about the collision in Korea. So, until then, this has been Every Country Explained. I hope you subscribe. Have a great day.